This video guide explains what to do after someone dies. It'll show you how to register a death and arrange a funeral. It'll also explain some of the things you need to take care of in the first week or two. This guide doesn't cover sorting out the person's property, money or possessions, which can be done later. When someone dies, some things need to be done in the first few days. The first thing you need to do is get a medical certificate from a doctor. This could be at the hospital or from the person's own doctor. It shows the cause of death and is needed for the next step, registering the death. You normally have to register a death within 5 days. This gives you the documents you need to arrange the funeral. Who can register a death? Usually this is a relative, but sometimes it could be a non-relative if they're the ones making the funeral arrangements or were present at the death. To save time, it's best to register the death at a register office in the area where the person died. You can find details online. You'll need to show the registrar the medical certificate and the person's birth, marriage or civil partnership certificate. If these certificates aren't available at the time, they can be shown to the registrar at a later date. Make sure you have details of the full name, including any maiden name, date and place of birth, last address, and occupation of the person who's died, and of their spouse or civil partner. Also, tell the registrar if the person was getting a state pension or any benefits. The registrar will give you a certificate for burial or cremation to give to the funeral director. If the person was claiming benefits or had a state pension, the registrar will give you a certificate of registration of death to complete. You can also get a death certificate from the registrar. You need this to sort out the person's estate. You can choose to have several copies so you can contact different organisations at the same time, like the person's bank or mortgage company. You have to pay a small fee for a death certificate and for any copies. After you've registered the death, you need to arrange the funeral. Most people use a funeral director. There are some things you can do to protect yourself. Get more than one quote to compare costs, and check what the quote actually covers. And choose a funeral director who's a member of the National Association of Funeral Directors or the Society of Allied and Independent Funeral Directors. Some local councils also run funeral services. If you want, you can arrange the funeral yourself. To do this, contact the Cemeteries and Crematorium Department of your local council. Funeral costs. There are 3 main types of funeral costs: funeral director fees, expenses called disbursements, like a newspaper announcement about the death, and local authority burial fees. Usually, a funeral is paid for by family members or friends, or a prepaid funeral plan or insurance policy. The cost of the funeral can also be reclaimed later from any money from the person's estate, like their savings. If you're on a low income or getting benefits, you may be able to get a funeral payment from the government to help with funeral costs. If the death is reported to the coroner. A coroner is someone who investigates a death, for example, when the cause of death is unknown. The coroner can decide to hold a post-mortem, a medical examination of the body, to find out how the person died. You normally can't object to a post-mortem, but the coroner must tell you when and where the examination will take place. After the post-mortem, you should be able to hold the funeral. If the person's body is to be taken out of England and Wales, a coroner also must give permission first. Contacting organisations. When the time comes, you'll need to sort out the person's estate. This means collecting together all their money, paying off any bills and debts, and dividing up what's left among the people who are entitled to inherit it. But you don't need to do this straight away. It can be done later. For now, you just need to take care of a few things. You'll need to let the government know the person's died, so they can update their records. You'll need to tell the tax office, HM Revenue and Customs, the Passport Service, the DVLA for cancelling car tax or returning a driving licence, and, where relevant, services like tax credits and child benefit. You'll need to contact the person's local council if, for example, they paid council tax, had a parking permit, or received social services care. Some local authorities run a service called Tell Us Once. This means they'll contact the different government services for you, instead of you having to do it yourself. When you register the death, ask the registrar if Tell Us Once is available in your area. You can also search the relevant council website for information about Tell Us Once. When someone dies, it can sometimes cause money problems, even if it's just for a short time. If you're the person's spouse or civil partner, you may be entitled to certain benefits, depending on your age, national insurance contributions, and whether you have any children. Contact your local Job Centre Plus office for advice. Depending on your age, your pension may also be affected. Contact the pension service. You should also contact financial organisations. These could include the person's bank, credit card company, plus insurance and pension providers. And remember to inform utilities companies, like gas and electricity suppliers, if the account was in the person's name.